Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Parama Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarva Gurubhyo Namaha. So today we're continuing on with Hari Bhakti Vilasa in the 7th Vilasa. The last time we talked about all different types of flowers and how the offering of flowers, different flowers have different meaning to the Supreme Lord, how he likes certain flowers, and there are also prohibited flowers. There is also the possibility of offering certain flowers which might be usually prohibited, but if we don't have any other flowers, we can offer those. Then there are some flowers we discussed which were totally forbidden and should never be offered. Then we started to talk about other things like offering of tulsi. And tulsi is, of course, considered even greater than offering the greatest flowers. Offering tulsi gives unlimited benefit. And so now we're in the middle of the section about praising the glories of offering tulsi to the Supreme Lord. And so we have this section, which is a Mahatmyam about offering tulsi in Kartik. So here we have, text 335. This is in 7th Vilasa of Hari Bhakti Vilasa. And it gives a special result. This is Pala Vishesha, the special result of benefit of worshipping tulsi or offering tulsi to the Lord in the month of Kartika, which is October, November. So this is coming from a discussion about Kartik in the Garuda Purana. So here we have the Supreme Lord talking to Garuda, saying, "O great bird, the result one obtains by giving 10,000 cows in charity can be obtained by offering only one tulsi leaf, right, to the Supreme Lord during the month of Kartik." So offering one tulsi leaf. Previously, we heard that just offering one tulsi leaf at any time gives unlimited results. Here also, again, we're getting another description of the unlimited results. Here it's saying 10,000 cows in charity. What it basically means is it's just such a great result that we can't imagine the result. So offering a tulsi leaf to the Supreme Lord during the month of Kartik. Kartik is a holy month, and therefore what we offer to the Lord and the puja that we do to the Lord in Kartik is considered to be multiplied more times than if we did it in some other time of the year. So you'll find this also, that there are different months of the year, and we're going to come to some sections in Hari Bhakti Vilasa after we get through, let's say, first of all, we have to get through the rest of the external worship here, which is going to bring us up to Vilasa number 8 or 8th chapter. And then after that, we're going to go through a few things talking about Ekadasi and Dwadasi and different vratas, and then we'll be talking about different duties of different months. So here we have a particular month, Kartik, which is a very holy month, and it especially in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, the month of Kartik. Of course, every month there's some auspicious activities that we can perform, and we get different benefits from different activities in different months. So let's go on and let's see. We also should note here that offering one tulsi leaf to the Supreme Lord in Kartik is a great thing. We've also noted that even if it's a dry tulsi, or even if it's just tulsi wood, or even if we have to chant the name of tulsi, we can somehow or other offer tulsi in some way. It doesn't depend upon the fact that we have fresh tulsi leaves or even a particular type of tulsi, the green or black tulsi. We've seen that there's different types of tulsi, and even then, any type is good. So, in the Skanda Purana, again, between Narada and Lord Brahma, there's a conversation. Text 336. O foremost sage, those who worship Lord Hari with an offering of 100,000 tulsi leaves during the month of Kartik certainly advance on the path of pure devotional service, which includes liberation, with each leaf offered. So each tulsi leaf offered, we can think of it as making advancements step by step towards the ultimate goal of life. So continuing on, my dear son, for those who worship Lord Janardana with offerings of tulsi leaves during the entire month of Kartik, all their sinful reactions that were accumulated during the past 10,000 lifetimes are eradicated. The merit one achieves by performing 100 horse sacrifices and giving a huge quantity of jewels and other valuable things in charity can be achieved simply by worshipping Lord Keshava with offerings of tulsi leaves during the month of Kartik, text 339. It's also stated a person, O sage, a person who picks tulsi leaves and then offers them while worshipping Lord Hari, the master of demigods, throughout the month of Kartik, certainly achieves the highest destination. So interesting here, it says here, Tulsim Prapya, who actually obtains the tulsi leaves, right? So there was a discussion also before about getting flowers and tulsi perhaps in the market, or actually picking the tulsi yourself. And picking the tulsi yourself is also an auspicious activity. If we go to somebody else's garden and they give us their flowers or their tulsi, right, then that person also achieves some great benefit by giving the tulsi to another person or the flowers to another person for them to worship the Lord. Of course, we shouldn't go and we shouldn't steal tulsi or steal flowers from other people's gardens. And that was also mentioned in the last class. Further on in the Padma Purana, in the Kartik Mahatmya, or the glories of the month of Kartik, it says, Lord Keshava becomes very pleased with the devotee who prepares a garland of tulsi leaves. And remember, yesterday we were talking about that offering individual flowers and individual leaves is good, but a garland of flowers or a garland of leaves is even hundreds of times or thousands of times better than just offering individual loose flowers and loose leaves. So here it's talking about a garland of tulsi leaves and manjaris, and it even actually says in Sanskrit, manjari bihi. Manjari bihi, sapatra bihi. Means manjaris along with leaves. So normally the system is that you pick a manjari and you also pick it with some leaves, or one leaf on each side of the manjari. That's a normal way for people to pick tulsi, manjaris. So Lord Kesha becomes very pleased with the devotee who prepares a garland of tulsi leaves and manjaris and then offers it to him. Indeed, he awards such a devotee residence in the spiritual world. Text 341 to 342. Atha Mage, the merit obtained in the month of Magh. Right, in Skanda Purana, it's also stated a person who, after bathing in a sacred river, right, Magh is a cold month in India, in the northern hemisphere, and therefore bathing in a sacred river means taking a cool bath, ritualistic bath in the river. So after doing that, one worships Lord Madhava with offerings of tender tulsi leaves during the month of Magh, delivers 100 generations of his family. A person who, during the month of Magh, worships Lord Janardana with soft tulsi leaves and manjaris, receives the merit of conducting all kinds of sacrifices. And now we're talking about Ata Chaturmasya, means in the 4 months of the rainy season. So also in Skanda Purana it mentions, by worshipping the blackish personality Lord Janardana with a garland of tulsi leaves during the 4 months of the Chaturmasya, right, the rainy season in India, one achieves the merit of performing 10,000 horse sacrifices. And so we're going to now talk about another month, the month of Vaishak, right? Offering tulsi during the month of Vaishak in the Padma Purana, in the Vaishaka Mahatmyam, which is the glories of the month of Vaishak, right? So we, as I said later on in the Hari Bhakti Vilasa, we're going to have whole sections about the activities in different months. So this is just a preliminary understanding because we're talking about offering flowers and offering tulsi. So he's brought in, Prabhupada has brought in some of these verses. I don't know if they get repeated, but he's brought in some of these verses from some of these sections about these different holy months. So it's a conversation between a Brahmana and Yamaraj. And it's stated, by worshipping Lord Madhusudana, who, so with an offering of blackish or greenish tulsi leaves, right? So these are the two main types. We also saw it was mentioned in one verse up there, a type of red tulsi, which I don't really know about, but we could see if that's possible also. But here we have the mention here of Tulasi Gora Krishna Bhya. Okay, so it seems like there's a Gora Tulsi and a Krishna Tulsi. Namo Narayano Bhavet. Okay. So by worshipping Lord Madhusudana with an offering of blackish and green tulsi leaves, especially in the month of Vaishaka, devotees can become qualitatively one with Lord Narayana. right? So this should be accepted in the way it's written. It's not that one becomes Lord Narayana, but in quality, we are also spiritual. It's stated in the Shastras, in the Upanishads, Aham Brahmasmi, that we are also spiritual. The soul is also spiritual. The super soul is also spiritual. The difference, of course, is in the quantity. Like a fire and a spark, that the soul is like a small spark and can be covered by smoke, whereas the fire, the blazing huge fire, is like the Supreme Lord, or the sun and the sun ray, like that, or the ocean and a drop, we could say, like that. So qualitatively the same, but or similar, let's say, not exactly the same qualitatively either, but of a much greater quantity. God is much greater spiritually than us. So devotee can become qualitatively one with Lord Narayana. Those who worship Lord Hari, the enemy of the demon Madhu, 3 times a day throughout the entire month of Vaishakha, is with offerings of tulsi leaves, will no longer have to experience material birth in this material world. So now we have a section here, the process of picking tulsi leaves, or tulsi leaves and tulsi manjaris. That's good. So in the Vayu Purana, so here we're getting a vidhi. The word vidhi means that the rules. Vidhi means rules, but it indicates a practical procedure for actually, right? Tulsi grahana vidhi. Ata das tulsi grahana vidhi, right? So it says someone who picks tulsi leaves without first having bathed, right, certainly commits an offense, because of this, all his good work is considered to be useless labor only. Okay, so number 1, we should take bath before we pick tulsi leaves. Now it also says here, it's Tatradal mantraha. There's a mantra here. So from the Skanda Purana, it gives a prayer for picking tulsi. So here's the prayers. Tulashamrita Janmasi, Saratvam Keshava Priya, Keshavarte Vichinvami, Varda Bhava Shobhane, Twaranga Sambhavai Patrehi, Pujami Yata Harim, Tata Kuru Pavitrangi, Kalo Malavinasini. Okay, so this is the prayer from High Bhakti Vilasa. Oh, beautiful one. Oh, Tulsi Devi, you have appeared from nectar, and you are always very dear to Lord Keshava. I am picking your leaves for the worship of Lord Keshava, and so please bless me. O embodiment of purity, O destroyer of the contamination of Kali, kindly help me so that I may be able to worship Lord Hari with your tender leaves. So, continuing on, we have another prayer here from Garuda Purana, text 349. Mokshay kaheto dharani prashaste Vishno samastasya guru priyeti aradhanartam varamanjarikam lunami patram tulasi chamashva. It's a very good, this is a very nice prayer because it has the word chamashva at the end, which means please forgive me. I beg your pardon. So, O Tulsi Devi, you're the only cause of liberation. There is no one within the entire world who is greater than you. You are the spiritual master of everyone, and you are very dear to Lord Vishnu. Therefore, for the worship of the Lord, I'm picking your best leaves and manjaris. Please forgive me. Right? And so here we have another verse, 350. It says, after chanting this mantra, offering obeisances to Tulsi Devi, one should carefully pick her leaves and manjaris with the right hand, and one at a time, and keep them on a clean plate. So the word, the Sanskrit here says ityuktva. So iti means thus, right? Uktva means having said, right? So having prayed to Tulsi like this. So these are the prayers. We have what? We have 2 unastub slokas, 2 normal verses, and then a slightly longer one. So all of these 3 prayers can be chanted. Then offer obeisances to Tulsi, right? After that, one can get up and with Dakshina Panina, with the right hand, one can carefully pick one by one the leaves and put them, sapatre, put them in a plate, right? Yesterday I was talking about how we should not just keep them in our hands, because in case there's a procession of the deity or the Lord or the spiritual master comes along, somebody comes and we have to pay obeisances, then it's not correct to keep flowers or tulsi in the hand while we're paying obeisances. That makes the whatever's in our hands contaminated because we're lying down on the ground. So normally when people are picking flowers or tulsi, they have a wicker basket or a bamboo or a pure basket with them that they can put those things in, put the tulsi or the flowers in. Okay, so here he's talking about having a plate, placing them on a plate. Nice. So now we have the glories of picking tulsi. So the Mahatmyam for that procedure. So in the Skanda Purana, it mentions one who worships Lord Vasudeva with offerings of tulsi leaves after chanting the mantra for picking them receives millions of times more merit for whatever pious or devotional activities he performs. It's also stated, text 352 and 353, the fingers of those who pick tulsi leaves from their garden every day for the worship of the Shaladam Shila are certainly glorious. The earth where tulsi plants grow is also glorious. Although it is stated in the Shmiti literature that one should not pick tulsi on the new moon day, full moon day, Dwadasi, or Sunday, the devotees of Lord Vishnu avoid picking tulsi only on Dwadasi. Okay, so we're not exactly sure where this is from. It may be from Skanda Purana, because here he started off with this Mahatmyam was started off from Skanda Purana. Then it says Kincha. It means also stated. It's not said directly that this is from Skanda Purana, but it may also be from Skanda Purana. So here we have this pramana that there are certainly different days that different sampradayas will emphasize. So those people who follow the Shmiti, who are usually called smartas, a person who's a smarta follows the Shmiti. In a sense, all Vaishnavas are also smartas, because we do follow certain parts of the Shmiti literature. But there are some parts of the Shmiti literature which we don't follow as Gaudiya Vaishnavas or as other types of Vaishnavas. They pick and choose certain things out of the Shmiti which they don't follow. And so therefore, if we strictly follow the Shmitis, right, then we have to say on the Amavasya, which is the new moon, on the Purnima, which is the full moon, on Dwadasi, which is the 12th lunar day, or Sunday, right, which is the day of the week, right? The devotees of Lord Vishnu avoid picking tulsi only on Dwadasi. Okay, so out of all those days, there are other days mentioned in scripture where it's forbidden to pick tulsi. But here, Gopalbhata and the Goswamis are giving their opinion that for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, or let's say for persons who follow the proofs given in Shastri proofs given in Hari Bhakti Vilas, it's only necessary not to pick tulsi on Dwadasi, which is the day after Ekadasi. So that's nice. It also mentions here in this verse that the earth where tulsi plants grow is also considered glorious. And in other places, we've seen that the earth where tulsi grows can also be used as tilak if we don't have any other type of tilak or sacred clay to use for marking the forehead and other parts of the upper body, 12 parts. So now we have prohibitions for picking tulsi. So first of all, we just got some prohibitions here. We got the full Smriti prohibitions, which were again Amavasya, Purnima, new moon and full moon days, Dwadasi and Sunday. But for simplicity's sake, for the devotees who follow Hari Bhakti Vilas, Dwadasi is enough. Don't pick tulsi on Dwadasi. Here we have now a special section where we're going to talk about more prohibitions. So from the Vishnu Dharmotara, which we've been finding a lot of quotes from about flowers and tulsi, it says, "O Brahmanas, Vaishnavas should never pick tulsi on Dwadasi." So that's just reiterating the point given before, that on Dwadasi we never pick tulsi. So in the Garuda Purana, it's also stated, pious person who desires a long lifetime, duration of life, should not pick tulsi on Dwadasi. And Darba grass, right? Here it says Durva grass, right? Durva grass, which is also a type of sacred grass, which is used in many ceremonies, right? On Sundays. So on Sundays, we shouldn't pick Durva grass and we shouldn't pick Tulsi on Dwadasi. If one does so, his duration of life will diminish. So now we have in text 356, we have a conversation between Krishna and Satya. Satya seems to be a lady, probably one of Krishna's wives, about the glories of the month of Kartik from the Padma Purana. And it says here, a person who picks Tulsi leaves on Dwadasi and Datri leaves, Datri is I believe, a banyan tree. I can look up Datri and just find out what it is exactly. Datri is Emblica officinalis. Okay. So Datri leaves during the month of Kartik. A person who picks Tulsi leaves on Dwadasi and Datri leaves during the month of Kartik will surely go to the darkest hell. So it's more confirmation that we shouldn't pick Tulsi on Dwadasi. Now it's also said, therefore it's also said, there is no fault in picking Tulsi for the Supreme Lord, collecting wood for a fire sacrifice, cutting grass for cows on a new moon day. So all of these things can be done on the new moon day. Whereas we had up here from Skanda Purana, right? From Skanda Purana or from some other place, which we don't know where from, it's saying that new moon day is not supposed to be, right? Is it new moon day? Yeah. New moon day, the Amavasya. We weren't supposed to pick Tulsi. Okay, but here's another quote which is against that. We don't know where this is from. So this quotation we don't know. So now, text 358. After completing the worship of the Supreme Lord in this way, one should, according to the rules laid down by his sampradaya, right? And the word sampradaya is used here. Sampradaya means tradition. So it can either mean the Gaudiya Sampradaya or the Ramanuja Sampradaya or the Madhva Sampradaya. It can either mean a very big tradition, or it could also mean your family tradition, whatever the tradition is in your family or amongst your subgroup. Excuse me. So laid down by his sampradaya, perform various nyasas, chant the prescribed mantras, and then worship each letter of the mantras he has chanted. Okay, so I'm not sure why we're discussing that. After completing the worship of the Supreme Lord in this way, one should, according to the rules laid down by Sampradaya, perform various nyasas, chant the prescribed mantras, and then worship each letter of the mantras he has chanted. So here, after offering the flowers and tulsi, the flower garlands and loose flowers to the Lord, then we're going to now come to some next stage of the worship, right? We've done all the alankaram. We've offered the Lord clothes. We offered the Lord jewels. We've offered the Lord crowns. We've offered the Lord a flute and all these different items. And now we've offered flower garlands and loose flowers and tulsi. So after completing the worship of the Supreme Lord in this way, one should, according to the rules laid down by Sampradaya, perform various nyasas, chant the prescribed mantras, then worship each letter of the mantras he has chanted. Right. So in the commentary by Sanatana Goswami, it talks about worshiping different what's going to come up next. First, it talks about different nyasas and things that have to be performed, and it also talks about worshiping the words and the letters of the mantra, and but doesn't go into exacting detail about this. So now we're going to continue on with what we call Ata Anga Upanga Puja. So Anga means the limbs of the Lord, and Upanga means the subsidiary limbs. So there are main limbs of the body of the Lord, and there are smaller limbs. Just like, for instance, my arms are major limbs, my hands and my fingers are smaller limbs, right? Subsidiary limbs. So now we have the worship of the Lord's paraphernalia, either anga and upanga, things that are considered part of his paraphernalia, part of the Lord, right? So this is text 359. We have ata, anga, upanga, puja, right? While performing the nyasa, he should also worship the mantras and the letters and words of the mantras, as well as the flute, the garden, the Srivatsa, and the Kaustubha gem. So all of these different things. The garden, when in the purport here by Sanatana Goswami to 358, he talks about the avarnas. Avarna puja means that after we worship the Supreme Lord, we also worship his surroundings. For instance, in Sri Rangam, there are 7 walls around the temple. At each wall, at each avarna, there are different personalities that have to be worshipped. So in the case of worshiping Krishna in Vrindavan, we can meditate on Krishna or Radha Krishna underneath a desire tree on a golden throne, with jewels and things like that, and then surrounded by gopis and gopas and other personalities from their lila in Goloka Vrindavan, and that's what we should be meditating on. At that, this is the time for also offering some worship too, in the surroundings like that, to the flute and the staff and the Srivatsa on his chest, the Kaustubha gem, and all these different parts, not only in the body of the Lord, but in the surroundings of the Lord too. Okay, as well as some more nyasas and some more worship of the words in the Gopal mantra and the actual letters, the 18 letters in the Gopal mantra. So okay, so text 360 thereafter in the purport by Sanatana Goswami to text 359, the prayoga is given, which is the actual procedure, and it says Sri Mastake. Mastake means the face of the Lord, and the mantra is Om Hrim Namaha. Lalate, which means the forehead of the Lord, Om Klim Namaha, and then it says Ityadi, so it means etc. So there's a list of different places on the Lord's body which are offered, of his limbs, which are offered different worship. And normally the way to worship the different parts of the Lord's body would be to take a flower or flower petal dipped in chandan or sandalwood paste, or what we call ganda. The ganda, remember ganda, the definition of ganda was sandalwood paste mixed with agaru and camphor or some other items like that. So sandalwood paste, and which is dipped in a flower petal or flower, and then offering it arti fashion to that particular part of the Lord's body, saying the mantra and throwing it into the visarjani, the throw out pot, or placing it at the feet of the Lord, let's say. Okay, so we have here examples given by Sanatana Goswami in the purport, but are not a full procedure. So the examples he's giving is the face and the forehead, right? So it says Om Hrim Namaha, Om Klim Namaha, Ityadi. So it says here, Shri Netra Dvaya Kechidapi Pujam Kurvanti, right? So he's do puja to the 2 eyes of the Lord, Om Hrim Namaha Ityadi. So it also mentions Om Hrim Namaha for that, etc. Atra Sarvatra Nija Sampradaya Vyavahara Evanus Anusartavya. Okay, so according to your own nija, whatever sampradaya you belong to, you should be doing that. Et ata eva likitam. Thus it has been written. Okay, so yata sampradayam iti, according to that sampradaya. So venavadischa. So the flute that Krishna's holding in his hands Shri Mukadao Purvavat Pujayet. So starting with the mouth and the flute, we should offer worship. And the prayoga procedure for that is prayogaha Shri Mukavenavena Maha Ityadi. Right? So we know some of these mantras. You know what we should do is we should look in a book called Gopalarchana Padati, which is an elaboration of this, which comes from a manuscript in the library in Bhubaneswar, used by Orisan Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and it's a very nice book, and it'll have all these mantras in full. But I believe we know Sri Mukavenavaya Namaha, Sri Vatsaya Namaha, Kostavaya Namaha, and there are some other words that are sometimes added, like we indicate where the Srivatsa is or where the Kaustubha is. So we could say Dakshastanore Srivatsaya Namaha, Swayastanore Kostavaya Namaha. On the right side is the Srivatsa, on the left side is the Kaustubha jewel, like that. So the full prayoga, the full procedure of this is not written in Hari Bhakti Vilasa. It's not given in the book, but we can work it out. We can figure it out. So avriti avarnam tadrupa devataha. So tadrupa devataha means that there are other personalities or devatas, right? Either we're talking about associates of Lord Krishna like the gopis and the gopas, or we could be talking about other demigods, right, that are surrounding the Lord in his lila, like that. And it's saying that they are in the avarna, they're in the surroundings, and they also get worshipped. That's in the purport for 360. So continuing on, so it says here, thereafter one should offer flowers to the Lord 3 times while chanting the Mula mantra. So it says here, Mula mantrena, Mula mantreta, Pushpanjali Trayam. So 3 handfuls of flowers, right? Begging him for permission to begin the worship of his associates. Okay. So then text 361 continues on. Next, one should invoke each of the associates of the Lord, bathe them and worship them with offerings of sandalwood paste and flowers. Right. So now he's going to go into detail of this Avarna Puja, and we're going to see the different circles of associates that Lord Krishna has. So 362 has got another purport which gives us some more information about that. So let's have a look at that. So here we're going to actually speak about the Avarna Puja. Excuse me. So we can think of Avarnas as circles. There are different circles surrounding the Lord. He's got his inner circle and he's got his outer circles of associates and friends. So we're talking first of all about the first Avarna, the Pratama Avarna. The first circle of associates is most confidential associates. So on the 4 sides of the Lord's altar, one should worship his associates. Now remember, we do this with flower and sandalwood paste. So, and we're going to chant the mantra and we're going to meditate upon. If we don't have a deity of the associate, then we have to meditate upon the associate being in that particular place. Now here it says the four sides of the altar. When we're thinking about people in different avarnas, in different and worshipping different devatas or associates of the Lord, parts of his parivara, his family, in different areas, we will start in the east. The first name the person will be in the east, then the south, then the north, then the west. So the west and the north, excuse me. In the east, traveling clockwise. Right, so like that. So for instance, here we have Vasudama, Sudama, Dama, and Kinkini. While worshipping them, one should chant Om Vasudamaya Namaha. And this was mentioned before, I think, in the chapter, in the 3rd chapter or 4th chapter. We were discussing about how to worship a particular personality. If we don't have a Mula mantra, if we don't have a mantra for a particular personality, the standard general rule is we take the syllable Om, the pranava, the Omkara, and we say Om, and then we take the name and we add the dative singular case, in this case Aya, right, an A ending noun, so Vasudama, it becomes Vasudamaya, and then we add the word Namaha, which means I offer my obeisances to, at the end of that. So here we have Om Vasudamaya Namaha. That's also what's said in the purport by Sanatana Goswami. He just gives the prayoga as Om Vasudamaya Namaha, Ityadi Prayogaha. So, but he also says, Chaturdikshu, Sri Bhagavata, Purvadi Dik Chatushtaye. So he's saying starting in the east, Purva, and going around. Okay, so that's what I was saying, like that. And so we can understand that it was going to be Om Vasudamaya Namaha, Om Sudamaya Namaha, Om Damaya Namaha, Om Kinkinye Namaha. Right. So that's how we're going to make the prayoga for that. Again, for the full procedure of that, we will have to write it out. So now that's the first circle of associates of Lord Krishna. Right. So the second circle is given in text 363. Outside the altar. So this was just on different parts of the altar, on the four sides of the altar. So the Lord's altar is there, or we're meditating upon the Lord being on a golden altar under a desire tree in Vrindavan. On the four sides of the altar, right, we have these four personalities, and then the second personalities are a little bit out from that. So they're not actually on the sides of the altar, but they're out from the sides of the altar. Second circle, the Dvitiya Varna. Outside the altar, one should worship the Anga Devatas, the Devatas that have to do with the limbs, the Anga Devatas, or these associates, as being part of the Lord's retinue, as being situated in the four corners while chanting the appropriate mantras that begin with their names. For example, Hrim Hridayaya Namaha, Shirase Swaha, etc. Okay, so in the commentary here, it says Agni Kona Daviti. So I guess starting with the Agni Kona, which I believe is the southeast, right? So from the east, we started going east, south, west, north. Now we're going to go southeast, and we're going to include eight personalities. So it's given, the prayoga given here is a little bit more. So Hrim Hridayaya Namaha, then Namaha Shirase Swaha, Namaha, etc. Okay, so it doesn't give much more than that. We have to find the full thing. Then it says Tadvarnadi Kanchoktam Kramadipikayam. From Kramadipika, it gives a verse which is to be chanted. Mukendu Kanta Kuvalaya Hari Nila Hutas Shanaprabha Pradaha Abhaya Varas Spurita Karaha Pradanatanavo Vonga Devataha Smartyaha. Okay, so we have to remember the different main Anga Devatas of the Lord by chanting this verse. Okay, so I can write that out sometime and we'll have that fully. Shukla Nila Rakta Varna. So something else is being said here about white, blue, and red colors. Sri Rupa. Okay, so there are these different personalities are in white, blue, red colors, and they're in the form of female form. Abhaya Vardakar, they have their hands in Abhaya and Varda positions. This is Abhaya and this is Varda, right? Abhaya means fearlessness pose, and Varda means the pose of giving boons, benedictions. Pradana Devata Swarupa Dhyaya Ityartaha. Okay. Exactly the procedure for all of this. We have to write it out. Okay, so that's the second of our the second circle of associates. Now the third set of associates, right, is given in 364 to 365, and it says here, beyond the second circle, one should worship the 8 principal queens of Lord Krishna. That would be in Dwarka. So I guess it's understood here that the meditation, it's funny though, because initially we were talking about meditating on Krishna and Vrindavan, but here we find in the Avarna Puja, we're thinking about the queens of Dwarka who are surrounding him. It may be that we have to adjust the prayoga for Vrindavan, and instead of the 8 queens of Dwarka, we could put the 8 gopis or something like that, or we could start out with a meditation on Krishna and Dwarka if we're worshiping Krishna and Dwarka, depending on whether normally Gaudiya Vaishnavas are worshiping Krishna and they're meditating on Krishna in Vrindavan. So it's interesting. It's interesting here that he gives this particular set of associates being the queens of Dwarka. So we can imagine outside of the altar, we can imagine the altar being situated in a lotus, and there are 8 petals of the lotus on each one of the 8 petals, which represent the 8 directions, right? Starting with the east, going to the south, southeast, east, southeast, south, southwest, west, etc., going around clockwise, right? We have these 8. This is the third of Varna, the third circle of associates, right? These 8 consorts of the Lord: Rukmini, Satyabhama, Nagnajiti, Sunanda, Mitravinda, Sulakshana, Jambavati, and Sushila. This is the third circle of the Lord's associates. So they all get worshipped with flower petal or flower and sandalwood paste, and also the chanting of their names: Rukminyai Namaha, Om Satyabhamaya Namaha, Vaye Namaha, Nagnajitai Namaha, Sunandai Namaha, Mitrivindai Namaha, Sulakshanayi Namaha, Jambavatyai Namaha, Sushilai Namaha, like that. So now we come to the fourth circle. There's a fourth circle outside of them, right? This is in text 366 to 367. And I'm looking here in the commentary by Sananda Swami, first of all, to 365, just to see if there's any other verse. There was a verse given in 363, coming from Pramadipika. For more information about this, of course, we could look in Pramadipika, which, as I said before, Haribhakti Vilas quotes a lot from Pramadipika, which is a book written by Keshava Kashmiri, who's an Nimbarkacharya, and in the Nimbarka Sampradaya. So, okay. So, there may be also a verse here which has to be chanted, right, for the 365, for the third circle. And then carrying on to the fourth circle, it says, thereafter one should worship Vasudev, Devaki, Nanda, Yasoda, Balarama, Subhadra, and other cowherd inhabitants of Braja as being well dressed and situated on the 8 leaves of the lotus. Okay, so that again, we think of there being another lotus outside of the third circle lotus. There's the fourth circle lotus, which also has 8 personalities. Being very well dressed and situated on the 8 leaves of the lotus, one should also worship the gopis as being situated at a little distance from Krishna due to modesty. Okay, that's interesting. So this is the fourth circle. So in the fourth circle, we have the gopis even a little bit further, than that in the fourth circle. So it's interesting here to note that according to Gopal Bhatta and Sanatana Goswami, the queens of Dwarka are in the third circle, whereas the gopis are actually in either the fourth or the outer fourth circle, due to modesty. That's what he's saying. Okay, so let's have a look at the purport first of all for 366 and 367 and see if there's anything mentioned about the exact procedure. Okay, so it seems like this needs elaboration. We need to figure out exactly how to do this. Okay. Anyway, continue on to the fourth circle of associates, right? We talked about. They also have to be worshipped. And then we have the fifth circle. We have a fifth circle of associates in 368 to 369. Right? Thereafter, one should worship the Mandara tree in back of the Supreme Lord, followed by the 5 celestial desire trees that fulfill all desires. Beyond that, in the 4 corners, one should worship Sanatana, Parijata, Kalpavriksha, and Harichandana trees. This is the 5th circle of the Lord. So I guess the Lord is considered to be like in a forest. And these are the holy trees that are in the forest. So there are some other verses here which are to be chanted. Bijaksharani, we're talking about 70. Okay, it's going to come up to the 60. No, we're not up to that yet. Okay. So then 370 to 371, we have the sixth circle of associates. Beyond that, one should worship the demigods or devatas such as Indra, Agni, Yama, Nairita, Vayu, Varuna, Kuvera, Ishana, Ananta, who is situated between Nairiti and Varuna, and Brahma, who is situated between Indra and Rudra with the appropriate mantras. So these are what we normally call as the Dikpals, or the protectors of the different directions. So starting with the east, we have Indra, Agni, Yama, Nairiti, Vayu, like that. Up and down, Ananta is down and Brahma is up, right? So we have the 8 directions going around, and we have up and down. So up is for Brahma and down is for Ananta. So they are very nicely dressed, and they should be worshipped along with their associates, weapons, and carriers. They're along with their associates, weapons, and carriers, and this is the 6th circle. So continuing on, it says 372 to 373. Beyond that, one should worship the principal associates of the Lord along with their weapons and ornaments. These associates are situated also in the 8 directions. They are of various complexions and characteristics. Next, one should worship the Vajra, Shakti, Danda, Kadya, Pasha, Ankusha, Club, and Trisula in the 8 directions. So these are all different weapons of the Lord. And the Chakra and Padma as being above and below, respectively. So these are also to be worshipped like that in the same way. So with Om in the beginning, in the dative case, and Namaha at the end, and we have to say all these things. So we can probably find, if we look in Gopalachana Padadi, we can probably find this full procedure which is written out like that. So that was 3 up to 374. And there's also some interesting in the commentary by Sanatana Goswami. It also talks about different Bij mantras for I think for the Dikpals, like that. It says Lam, Lam, Mam, Sham, Ram, Yam, Sam, Ham, Reem, Am. All these different Bij mantras for the Dikpals. And then there are some mantras, some other slokas to be chanted, etc. It's probably all coming from it gives an example here also of how we would do this. For instance, if we're worshiping, we would say Om Lam Indraya Devadipataye Sayudaya Savahanaya Saparivaraya Kapisha Varnaya Vivida Mani Gana Kirana Praspurad Bhushanaya Namaha. That's an example. So this all has to be written out. That's the example for Indra, for worship of Indra. So it seems like with the Dikpals, with these 10 Dikpals, the 8 directions and up and down, right? It's a much longer mantra that we have to chant than just Om, the name of the dative case, and Namaha. So they give one example, and they expect you to figure out all the other ones by just knowing the names of the directions. So we can do that. We can write that out. That shouldn't be too difficult. Okay, so in that mantra, it also mentions Indra. It gives a bija mantra for Indra, Lam. It gives the word Indra within the dative case. Then it says a description of him, the Devadi Pataye. He's the leader of the gods. Sayudaya, along with his weapons. Savahanaya, along with his carrier, right? Saparivaraya, along with his associates. Kapisha Varnaya, he has a specific color, and etc. So there's a lot which is mentioned that he has certain ornaments that he wears as well. So that's all mentioned there in that mantra. So we have to find the similar mantras for all of the different Dikpals. Okay, so continuing on, we have now the 7th. That was the 6th circle. Now the 7th circle around the Lord, or the 7th of Varna. The glories of worshipping the Lord's associates. Okay, so in the Vishnu Damotar it says, just by remembering any of the Lord's Hari's weapons, such as the Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, plow, stick, lance, etc., right, one is freed from all sinful reactions. This is the 7th circle of the associates of the Lord. So the 7th circle, here, it's interesting. Okay, so the 6th circle was the Dikpals, and the 7th circle was the weapons of the Lord. Okay, so text 375. Worship of these 7 circles of the Lord's associates awards one all kinds of happiness. If one is unable to worship all 7 circles of associates, then he should at least worship the 3 special associates, Anga, Indra, and Vajra. Vajra means a thunderbolt. Anga, I'm not sure. Indra, of course, is the god of thunder, the god of the king of the gods, let's say. Okay, so continue on with text 376. The devotees of the Supreme Lord know that worship of these associates is particularly meant for those who desire to conquer their enemies or have another such motive. Okay, so for those who have such a desire, it's impossible to have a connection with Krishna without the mercy of one of his associates, such as Rukmini. Right, for those who have that type of desire to conquer their enemies, or they have some sort of motive like that. So now it says, 377, the devotees of the Supreme Lord should first worship his beloved associates, such as Sri Radha and others in the first circle, while meditating on them. So here's another, where is this from? This is coming from, we don't know exactly. This is from in Vishnu Damotar. It seems like it's saying that you can also worship Radha in the first circle while meditating upon. Although out of shyness they may stay at some distance from the Lord, at the time of worship they remain by his side. Okay. Text 378 to 379. And there's maybe some more about this in the purports, but where are we up to? 378. So I don't see any more actual prayogas here, the procedures. But it's interesting. It does seem that there's quite a lot of commentary by Sanatana Goswami on this section. Okay, so let's continue on. Thereafter, one should worship the cowherd boys. that are of the same age as Krishna. After that, one should worship the elderly cowherd men, such as Nanda, and the elderly cowherd women, such as Yashoda and Rukmini. Rohini. Excuse me. This should be followed. This should be followed by worship of the cows, calves, bulls, deer, and other animals. At the time of worshiping the Supreme Lord, one should not forget to worship the demigods headed by Brahma. Text 380 to 381 says one should worship Lord Balaram as being sometimes with Krishna and sometimes with Mother Rohini. Narada Muni should be worshipped as wandering about in jubilation nearby. In this way, one should engage in meditation and worship. Right. So what's being emphasized here by the Goswamis is that worship is also a meditation. It's a meditation on Krishna, but not just Krishna, but Krishna and his associates. So whether you are meditating on Dwarka Krishna with his associates, the queens of Dwarka and other associates, or whether you're meditating upon Vrindavan Krishna with Radha and the gopis and the gopas and the older cowherd men and women, then it's a meditation. It's not just the worship of Krishna alone, but it's the worship of Krishna with his parivara, his family, his associates. Whatever mode of worship is suitable and pleasing to the devotees is approved by Sri Krishna and saintly persons. Right. So according to one sampradaya, one sect or whatever, according to the instructions of the guru, according to some other, we might find some other prayogas which are specifically for Raghunaga Bhaktas or for different devotees who are worshipping Krishna in Dwarka or Krishna in other situations. And of course, with other deities also, because we're teaching deity worship for all types of deities. So the same would be true for worshipping of Rama, worshipping of Narasimha, worshipping of any of the other forms of the Lord. So let's continue on 382 to 383 in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the third canto. Kardama, the sage Kardama, in his prayers he says, "My dear Lord, although you have no material form, you have your own innumerable forms. They truly are your transcendental forms, which are pleasing to your devotees. You are so merciful that your devotees, which you manifest to your devotees, that you manifest yourself in a particular eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you." So Ishtadevata is the form of the Lord that we always think of when we think of when you say God to somebody. What do they think of? What is the form of God that they think of? Some people think of Narasimha. Some people think of Krishna in Vrindavan or in Dwarka or Rama. There's different forms of God that spring to mind when we think about or start to meditate on the Lord. So now we have Namastaka Puja, the worship of Krishna's holy name. Text 384. Thereafter, one should worship the 8 principles names of Krishna while offering flowers. So it seems to be like Archana, Namarchana in South India, where they offer with different names. And normally it's 108 names or 1,008 names. But here we have 8 principal names of Krishna that we're going to offer. While offering flowers, we're going to chant them and we're going to worship those names. If one is unable to worship the Lord in the above mentioned manner, then he should worship these 8 holy names of the Lord. Thereafter, one should worship the 8 principal names of Krishna while offering flowers. If one is unable to worship the Lord in the above mentioned manner, then he should worship these 8 holy names of the Lord. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. This will award all kinds of merit, all kinds of worship. Okay, so let's have a look at the Sanskrit. So now Krishna Puja with Pushpanjali, they should be worshipped. Puriyat Va Puja Shakti. I don't really understand the meaning of this, but let's have a look. It's 384, and let's see if there's any elaboration. There's actually a very long purport by Sanatana Goswami about this one, which I would have to go over, and I'm not prepared right now to say exactly what he's saying, but It's very interesting. Um, anyway, so we'll just continue on and we'll see if it's explained a little bit more in the text here. So text 385, 386, Sri Krishna. So here we have the names. The 8 names are Sri Krishna, Vasudeva, Narayana, Devaki Nandana, Yadushreshta, Varshneya, Asura Kranta Bharahari, and Dharma Stapaka. Interesting. So these holy names should be worshipped by pronouncing the name in the 4th dative case, ending with the word Namaha. For example, Sri Krishnaya Namaha. Thus ends the translation of the 7th Vilasa of Hari Bhakti Vilasa. So let's just have a look before we have any questions. Let's look at the, if there is any more given in the purport. No, it just says Sri Krishnaya Namaha. Okay, so what would actually be said for all of these is we would have Sri Krishna, Om Sri Krishnaya Namaha, Om Vasudevaya Namaha, Om Narayanaya Namaha, Om Devaki Nandanaya Namaha, Om Yadushreshthaya Namaha, Om Varshnehaya Namaha, Om Asura Kranta Bharaharaye Namaha, Om Dharma Stapakaya Namaha. And this would be the prayoga for this particular part. So 1, 2, 3. Yep. Okay. So interesting. So, and then that is the end of the 7th Vilas. Interesting that it has this Avarna Puja, and it needs all to be worked out to be done in a specific way according to the particular form of the deity or the particular form of Krishna, whether Dwarka Krishna or Vrindavan Krishna that people are worshipping.